This is a story about two lives, one that ended too soon, and one that lasted just long enough to break your heart. Twins were born into a home that had very little. They already had 3 older siblings, and a single mother fighting to keep them all afloat. For them, poverty wasn't a fear, it was just the air they breathed. Tomorrow was never a promise. When they were 9, one of the twins got sick. Jaundice. It started with yellowing eyes and a deep, clinging weakness. He was just a kid, but he was tired all the time. The family needed money for a doctor, for real medicine, but there was no money. Friends of their mother, with good intentions, suggested local remedies. They hoped, they prayed, they tried what they could. But as the days turned into weeks, hope slowly faded. By the time they could get proper medical help, it was already too late. One twin survived. The other became a memory, a name spoken in whispers, and then, eventually, not spoken at all. By 13, the surviving twin's childhood was over. He wasn't a kid anymore. He was a provider. He hauled water, ran errands, and took any small job he could find, just to put a little food on the table. Grief doesn't pause life. Responsibility just steps in to take its place. It was in the middle of this constant struggle that he found faith. He accepted God. He prayed with everything he had, and he believed with a sincerity that was raw and real. Faith became his sanctuary, the quiet place where he could still talk to the brother he'd lost, where he could ask the questions that had no earthly answers. But faith doesn't pay school fees. When the little money they had ran out, his education stopped. It wasn't because he wasn't smart or because he didn't try. It was because poverty is absolute. It doesn't negotiate, so he learned a trade. Carpentry. At first, his hands were clumsy, unfamiliar with the tools. But he was patient. He worked, he learned, he practiced. Over the years, that effort transformed into skill. His hands learned the language of wood. Slowly, but surely, life began to stabilize. He earned respect in his community. He earned a steady living. For the first time, things felt manageable. And then, death came back. First, it was his mother, the anchor of their family, the woman who held everything together with pure sacrifice, was gone. Not long after, his older brothers passed away, one after the other. In the span of just 4 years, everyone he had ever leaned on, everyone who formed the foundation of his world, was taken from him. The weight of that grief was immense. It piled up, layer after layer, until something inside him quietly shattered. The prayers he once held so dear became infrequent, and then they stopped altogether. The church felt like a room full of strangers. Faith felt like a burden too heavy to carry. Silence felt safer than another unanswered prayer, another disappointment. A friend noticed the change, the hollowness in his eyes. He reached out, invited him back to church, gently reminding him of the man he used to be. Slowly, hesitantly, he returned, but this time was different. He didn't just attend, he served. He got involved, became a leader, and people started looking up to him. They saw his strength, but they couldn't see the cracks beneath the surface. Life has a funny way of bringing the past back to your doorstep. Old friends reappeared, the sound of familiar laughter, the comfort of shared memories. It started innocently enough, just catching up, just talking. Then, drinks were introduced. Then, other substances, promising a temporary escape from the pain. It wasn't a sudden fall. It was a slow, quiet drift, just gradual enough to feel like he was still in control. Prayer became a distant memory. Faith was something he used to have. Control was slipping away, not in a crash, but like sand through his fingers. One morning, he woke up with a plan, just like any other day. He was going to meet a friend. He was going to drink. He was going to find his usual escape. It felt routine, ordinary. But he never made it. An accident. Sudden. Final. His life wasn't destroyed by one single mistake or one moment of weakness. It was slowly dismantled by years of untreated grief, of unspoken pain, and by the dangerous belief that being strong meant being silent. Sometimes, our lives don't fall apart because we lose our faith. They fall apart because we stop the process of healing. And that is a quiet, devastating truth that many of us only realize when it's far too late. Thank you for listening. If you or someone you know is struggling with grief or mental health, please know that reaching out is a sign of strength. There are resources available, and you don't have to carry it all alone. Take care.